Hello, hello. Not sure I can hear anybody. Oh, there we go. Hey,
Yeah,
Daryl.
sorry. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I thought my speakers weren't working, but I don't think you or Jody had any sound going on yet. So
Yeah, I didn't. I just been
are,
out doing some yard work. I thought I'd get prepared, so I looked like I was in the meeting
well,
again.
well, it's because you signed in and then the system sent me an email saying there's somebody waiting. I was like,
Oh
oh,
no.
okay, great.
Oh,
It's not
sorry.
7, but no, it's fine. I was, this is the first time I've actually hosted because Matt Wynot is a younger camp director from out in Nova Scotia
Yeah.
who normally hosts them. Like the two of us are doing this, but him and his wife are looking at a new house tonight. And
Nice.
so I'm hosting, which is fine. It's a better, it's good for me to figure it out. I'm gonna see about sharing screens while the three of us are on here. So if I do this, share screen. So what do you see? Do you see the PCCA thing, Daryl?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. Because we're going to talk about PCCA tonight, which is the Presbyterian Church Camping Conference Association out of the States. And
Right.
then I just have to stop share and we go back to seeing everybody else. Hello, Jody.
Hi there.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
We can. We can. What camp are you with, Jody?
It's Camp Kalari in British Columbia.
Oh, cool.
And I'm also connected with
Awesome.
another camp in the Kootenai Presbytery. My question is, and I'm not going to be able to stay for the whole meeting, but I'm just wondering what the three council model is doing to the supervision and authority of the camps.
The quick answer to that would be that we're going to fall under regions as our oversight, as opposed to conference.
Right. Right now, the two camps,
as far as I understand.
Yeah, right now, the two camps I'm involved with have oversight by presbytery.
You still do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was with Camp Pringle, Jody, so I'm familiar. You must be Rock Lake as well as Coolery, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So they're still under presbytery.
Yeah, we're going through the process of incorporating ministries for them. Presbytery certainly has the immediate oversight of them. And just with the loss of presbyteries, for instance, but I haven't heard anything specific about the whole United Church camping as to what's happening with the new model of remits.
That's all of us. So we don't know everything. We just know some things. And I wish we knew more. But if presbytery has been your supervisor or oversight, right? Supervision versus oversight has always been the right. Does presbytery treat themselves as a supervisor, or does presbytery treat themselves as an oversight body, Jody?
Yeah, the oversight body.
Yeah. And so I think different organizations have really outlaid that that responsibility differently, because as I understand it, only moved to the conference level for oversight, and should have stayed. The oversight of any incorporated ministry moved to conference level supervision after the 2006 General Council. Yeah. I know that my brother was a camp director at Lambton Center at the time, and I was brand new here, and we figured out that it didn't mean a lot to us as camps, so that it changed from presbytery to conference. and that didn't actually happen. We never, in my 13 years here, I've had one oversight visit. I
I
probably
had a
should
lot
have
of
had more.
apologies, though. I never had a single
Yeah.
visit. A lot of apologies.
Yeah. And when we did have an oversight visit, Jody, it ended up that the report was a year late in getting to us.
Yeah.
And that was when presbytery is
Hey, Joe.
conference put the oversight. Yeah, Doug. Go ahead, Doug.
Huh.
Doug, can you hear us? Doug.
Can you hear us, Doug?
Lorraine, can you hear us? You are muted, but not if you can hear us. Yeah. Doug, can you hear us now? Doug's trying to fix his audio.
Oh, there we go.
Who do we have over here? Call. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can hear us? Perfect.
Yes,
That's
we can.
great.
Yeah.
Are you guys Manessatung?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I'm Clayton,
Perfect.
the summer camp director. This is Colleen, our chaplain.
Hi.
How do you spell Manessatung? MENS.
MENESETUNG.
Yeah.
MENESETUNG.
Like it says on your screen there?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I might have spelled Clayton's name wrong, but you know,
Well, you did, but that's
that's
fine.
beside the point. At least I recognize it. So
Yeah.
sorry. How do we spell? Is Clayton with a Y, Clayton?
It is. Yes. CLAYTON.
We also have our fantastic fuzzy assistant director joining us. Slightly say, Slightly, can you sit up? Slightly will not sit up, but he's very fuzzy. There he is.
Yeah. Doug, can you hear us now? Doug, can you hear us now? Doug is trying to figure out. Lorraine can hear us. And Lorraine is, what camp are you with, Lorraine?
Oh, Mackenzie Camp. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm with Mackenzie Camp
Mackenzie Camp.
in
BC.
British Columbia,
Okay.
and that's Kamloops Okanagan Presbytery.
And Jody, what camp were you with?
Koolari, Koolare.
How do we spell CLOLAR?
KOOLAREE.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I can hear Doug.
Oh, I can hear Doug talk. We just can't, Doug can't hear us.
No.
I'm messaging him. Doug says he can't hear anything, so he's going to try and call in.
Okay. That's great. There were a few other people signed up, but in the interest of time, let's get started and have a nice, succinct, small meeting tonight where we can all chat with each other. If we can go around and just introduce ourselves when I call on you. Daryl, if you want to go first.
Hi, I'm Daryl McLeod, formerly
are,
with Camp Pringle, and now just an interested outside participant.
That's great. Colleen and Clayton.
Right. Yeah. So I'm Clayton, and we are from Camp Manessatung. Camp Manessatung is a summer camp in Ontario, right on Lake Huron. I've been a camp director here for 3 years.
Hi, I'm Colleen. I am outreach and also the camp chaplain. I've been doing, this is my second summer as a camp chaplain. I'm also a candidate for ministry in the United Church. And this is my first year doing our community outreach programming.
And I'm here. I'm Mary. I'm the other camp director.
That's a
Mary's just outside of the frame. She confused
And
us there.
apparently slightly gets the chair closer to the camera.
yeah.
He's here too, but is currently napping.
That's great. And Lorraine.
I'm Lorraine Powell. I'm from Mackenzie Camp in British Columbia, Kamloops Okanagan Presbytery, and I'm the treasurer. And we've had a lot of support from our Kamloops Okanagan Presbytery. And I think I met Doug.
Doug, can you hear us yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear. I'm on my cell.
Okay.
It sounds like it's echoing too.
Perfect. There's a bit of echoing, but unless you have headphones close by, it's going to echo for a little bit. So, Doug, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Doug Clark, Camp Big Canoe in Bracebridge, near Bracebridge, Ontario. So that's a couple hours north of Toronto. I'm the chair of the board of directors, and I run one of our camps that has volunteer staff come when the regular camp gets a break in the middle of the summer.
That's great. And Jody, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Jody Dudley. I'm located in Nelson, British Columbia, and connected with two church camps, Camp Kalari in the West Kootenay and Rock Lake Camp in the East Kootenay.
Excellent. And I'm Joe Richards. I am with Pierce Williams Christian Center, which is a summer camp and retreat facility located in Elgin County, Ontario, part of currently London Conference Camping, and in the same conference with Manessatung. So we have a small group tonight. I have, Doug, you can still hear us. And I believe,
Yep.
Can you talk for me now? Okay, I think I've gotten rid of the echo because I muted your computer, so we're all good.
Okay, great.
So tonight, Matt's unable to join us because he is buying a new house, and he has gone to look at a house that just opened up today in his town in Nova Scotia, and so is unable to come, and he sends his regrets. We wanted to start this meeting with of the Outdoor Ministries Institute with saying thanks for coming, and we started with a new communication tool. So we put everybody's email addresses into a MailChimp account, and that's the way we're going to communicate. So it's easy to get those messages out and across. And if you choose not to be part of us, or somebody chooses not to, that's their choice as we go forward. Tonight we were talking about Ask Anything. So let's start there. What are the big questions? Camp starts for most of us in like 2 weeks. Is that right? 2 weeks? I get confused. Is it? I believe it's 2 weeks. Yeah, 2.5 weeks till staff training. I know, Jody, you can't stay for the whole thing. Did you have some questions you want to ask us as a camping group?
No, just the one that you and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so Jody, we'll refresh that question. I'm not sure everybody might have been on that, but the idea of how does the change in the church affect camping? And right now, the big answer is none of us really know how it will affect camping. I know that our oversight will travel to the next layer of administration. So if you're an incorporated ministry, your oversight body will become your region. And so if you're currently covered by a presbytery, it would become whatever region number or a cool name they come up with for the region, unless somebody knows differently, but that's what I understand. So that's great. Other questions?
Could I just add in, I think it might be a little more confusing in BC simply because of the stance the conference took in running regional camps. And so the separation of Coolery, Rock Lake, Mackenzie, Grafton, etc. Sorry, I'm forgetting a couple. But because you're still under Presbytery and Camp Kirkham and Pringle are under the conference, if I'm not mistaken, kind of muddies the waters a little more in BC.
Okay.
It might muddy the water, but depending on how the incorporation has worked, you are right. Who owns Coolery would be my question, or who owns Mackenzie Camp? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're basically owned by conference, but the authority to operate them have been passed down to Presbytery.
And
So
Lorraine,
conference, yeah.
go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead, Lorraine. The more I know, the better.
Okay. Mackenzie Camp is actually owned by the National United Church. We transferred the title to the National Church quite a while back. And we've been on oversight with Presbytery for a while. And that's been fairly good, actually. We've got a lot of support from them.
And I think so Daryl, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not saying I know any better than that it's not going to muddy the water. I know that in like Doug, for example, Big Canoe is owned by, the deed is in the some Toronto Conference committee. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
The Toronto Property is
Toronto United Church Conference. Yeah. And so the deeds for the 4 camps are there, and we lease the site for $2 a year, basically. So we have a lease through them.
$1 too little.
Yeah, I think
$1 too little.
They said they had to raise it or something from 1. It was 1 forever, but yeah. So we're not sure here.
Well, I know that.
Other than the regions, here anyway, the process is the presbyteries are sending monies that they've committed for the next couple of years to the new region. And then there's also going to be a process to apply for that money coming out in September. So we've had our presbytery earmark the money that they've given us each year for the next 3 years. And hopefully that gets put in their budget. But at one of the sessions with the regional people, or the people setting it up, they were talking about the region's budget is going to go down each year till 2025, when it's pretty drastic between now and then. So I'm not sure what that means for us after the next couple of years.
Well, I know that I think Manessatung might be the owner of themselves. I'm not sure if you guys know the ins and outs of the ownership. So as an incorporated ministry, a lot of London conference camps are solely incorporated and are owned by their own incorporation. Is that true for you at Manessatung?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes, we're fully incorporated.
Yeah. And so the deed of those properties in London Conference has been is essentially in the name of the case of closure or beginning the operations of winding down, which is the phrase they use in the bylaws. So yeah. That's great. Any other, who's got my screen is all switching around. It's like people keep moving. Who Who has another question? Any questions for everybody? You've got a captive audience here.
I guess I have a question.
Colleen has a question.
Yeah. So we're coming up to the summer. I'm working on building programming that works really well with our truth and reconciliation commitments. And I was wondering what other camps are doing in terms of meeting the United Church's truth and reconciliation goals. We're hoping to offer the blanket exercise during Teen Week for the second year in the row, which was done. We had great success with it last year. We're going to an event in Kincardine to experience the blanket exercise run by local elders next week, so we can get a little bit more information about the local area. And we do a land acknowledgement, but I think there's more we can be doing. And I was curious what other camps are doing.
Oh, for us.
Anybody want to speak to that?
Sure. At Big Canoe, we're doing those same two. We're doing the acknowledgements at the start of each camp and the start of any formal session that we're doing. And we're doing the blanket exercise with our staff, and then with our outdoor skills and our LIT programs, and maybe some senior campers will see how that goes. The only other, we've started some conversations with some local elders. We do have a connection to the Chippewa Nation on Georgina Island in Georgian Bay, because that's where the camp used to be, and they still send some kids from there. So we have a bit of a connection there. We're trying to maybe make it a stronger one, other than just them sending us a few kids, up to 12 kids, and some years 1 or 2. So we're working on those, but basically we're doing the same things you're doing, with some intention to make it more than it is.
Lorraine here. We haven't planned to do the blanket exercise at camp, but I really have been promoting it. We haven't done our staff planning yet. I have done the blanket exercise a number of times in various churches, and we're fairly well connected with the Indigenous liaison people with the schools in the area. And so because we get community support for campership, for our campership program, we sponsor quite a few First Nations children at camp, both from the local Splatcheen band and through the Aboriginal liaison people in our schools in the area. But, and we've invited elders in the past, but we haven't done a lot of programming planning yet this year. So that's I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah, I'm remiss to say that we don't actually have a plan for it, Colleen, in the sense of we have our land acknowledgement, and we also have the chair of our board is able to lead the blanket exercise, and she has done so. She did so at the conference here in was that 2016, and so the thought would be for us, similar to you, that it would be a teen week or a youth week exercise. Or even a training week exercise, but beyond that, there's no solid plan, and I wonder if there would be a better plan if there was more of a couple of sheets of guidelines as to these are the activities we can do to help, and here are the goals. And I'm not sure if you're aware of anything like that exists. I love the look on your face. No.
Not at the moment. We're looking, and certainly if we see anything, we're happy to share it. But it's really like the blanket exercise is great for the teens, but it's really figuring out what we do with our younger campers. I know that our outdoor living skills person is hoping to talk a little, just talk a little nations, folk, and history when doing outdoor living skills and out tripping, but we don't, as to a formal program, we haven't really seen much. I'm wondering if maybe the school curriculums, since that's become a mandate with the TRC for public schools to have that kind of education, if we could look at something from there, but that's just I haven't pursued that yet.
Yeah. Years in 2013, I toured Australia camps or more outdoor ed centers for when I was on a sabbatical, and they had a really strong, I'm not sure where they got the plan, but it had to do with their Aborigine and the programming that they did with every outdoor ed group that came through. Because it wasn't a church-based thing, it was a government-based, this is the way things go. And part of that program, I know for a lot of those camps or outdoor ed centers, was that it was led by local elders and local Aborigine, and if it couldn't be led by them, then it wasn't run. And they said that that worked most of the time, and when they couldn't make it, they just shifted the program to something else at the time. So it's interesting. I think it'd be nice to have something up and running this summer, but the reality is with 2 weeks, I'm not sure that we've done the proper, we as Outdoor Ministries in Canada with the United Church haven't done the proper planning or haven't had proper guidance. And I'm not sure who the people are to further guide us through that.
I wonder if talking through general counsel would be worth mentioning, even if we as a group spoke to Intercultural Ministries and said, we need some for us to work with kids. And I mean, even if they're planning it for Sunday schools as well, because that's what Intercultural Ministries is there for, is to be, I know they do an unpacking white privilege stuff. They do stuff on LGBTQ. I think that they include First Nations is part of the Intercultural Ministries, and wondering if maybe they have something, or could, with us speaking up about it, could look into developing something.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to go.
But
I'm just not sure.
That will just take us saying something. So in that case, or a number of us speaking up to them, because if just one of us says something, they won't acknowledge it as a larger need.
Okay. Well, it becomes a question of how we mobilize as a group. And this is a whole reason, one of the founding reasons behind the Outdoor Ministries Institute is this idea that we as camps, all 50 plus of us, United Churches, right, we want a better voice together, and not just 6 camps represented here, but the idea that we have people sign on to something that would be, you know, a sort of request for general counsel or whatnot. Yeah, I hate to leave things without an action plan. I don't know what the next action is on that item, like who putting somebody in charge of it right before the summer when we all have free time. Did somebody else have any questions or comments? At the end of the summer. Okay. I can never tell if it's just my internet that sucks or if everybody's really quiet and frozen.
I think it's probably just people, if they're going to say something, should be able to pop in and say. I think it's great. Most people are using their mute, which is helpful, so we don't hear you breathing or coughing or whatever. But yeah, small input.
With my
Okay.
apologies, I have to leave.
Thanks, Jody.
All right.
I have a question for people, and I'm not sure if anybody's dealt with this. And Daryl, you were at Pringle for a while. And what's your relationship like with your local fire department and fire safety?
Well, when I was there, at least, we had a very good relationship. It's a volunteer fire department in our area, the Shawnigan Lake Fire Department. They're located about 5 minutes from the camp. And during training camp, we had an evening where they did their training at Camp Pringle using our staff. So we would have somebody drown at the beach. We would have somebody broken leg or something in the forest, and we'd have somebody totally missing from the property. And the fire department, and we'd have a fire in one of the buildings. And so they were there doing their training, but it also showed us a lot of weaknesses in our first response systems. And so we were able to really improve how we dealt with things. For instance, at Camp Pringle, just the trucks coming onto camp property, we had in our policies that one person would greet the truck at the entrance. So truck comes in, now where does it go? It had no idea. So the very first time we did this, that really showed us we needed 4 people minimum just to move the trucks to the right place. And yeah, it showed us that our waterfront staff were really well trained and understood search and rescue and resuscitation, etc. But as far as fire approach and conduct, where we would go, that sort of thing, that's separate. And we haven't, in my time, we didn't work too much on that beyond being a location for evacuation for other people. But if the camp itself was at fire risk, where would we go? What would we do? We did have policies around that, but they weren't really worked out through the local fire department, which wouldn't have been a bad strategy.
It's Lorraine here.
Yeah.
So Mackenzie Camp is 5 minutes across the river, and the fire department couldn't come to see us. We have a local fire marshal, and I don't know if we've ever invited him, but we have a policy and a working agreement with the local Kingfisher community. And so if there's a fire at camp, of course, they'd have to go on the water because there's no road out. And if there's a fire right by the beach, then we would go to the Kingfisher Hall, and that would be a place for the families all to meet their children. But I don't think we've done a really good job at practicing. Thank you for bringing that up, because we're just working on our staff training. Thanks.
Part of the larger conversation is that we currently have 35 fire orders against us that they want cleared up by August 1st. And so this isn't just about the relationship, it's also about the idea of what you need as far as fire safety in your camp and in your cabins and in your buildings. You know, and that'll start with a fire safety plan, which this is in Ontario, right? But you need a fire safety plan, and you need to have that approved by the fire chief. And then you should be, you know, I'm not saying to invite the inspector on site, but our inspector found a bunch of stuff that is going to cost a lot of money to fix. And that'll be different based on which camp and the layout of cabins and whatnot. So it's just we've invited the fire department over the years to come and do fire extinguisher training, and we know you know, we have a very succinct fire policy with where kids go, who goes and greets the trucks where to go. But it's just the second part of this where the fire inspector came in and just sort of blew. They actually labeled us as a hotel in September last year, and we that and we won that fight, but then they come back and just seem more vindictive that we actually questioned them. So I don't know what the good side of this is. I think the fire department has to do their job. It's just, if you didn't find it last September, why all of a sudden are you finding, 20 more things that we do wrong?
That is interesting. We have, at Pringle, we were fortunate, I guess, because we did get inspected by the fire department regularly, annually. And, things that were an issue of any sort, in some cases were grandfathered, like the cabins lacking two emergency exits or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We went ahead and cut some doors in some cabins that didn't have a second door, that sort of thing. Tried to be proactive, meet what they wanted us to do, even though they were overlooking them for grandfathering, and the fire alarm system and everything. Because, again, we were adopted by conference, or however you want to look at what happened in BC. They put a lot of money into the camp, and when they built the new buildings, everything is up tip-top, fire code and everything. Makes it a little easier than trying to bring things up to code in an older camp with no money, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I've found over the years is that it kind of depends on the person who comes and shows up at your camp. We've had a really, really good fire marshal, whatever level he's at, show up the last group of years, and has been, I'm here to help you, make sure you stay open, everything's safe, and given us all kinds of time and those kinds of things, and hasn't really found too much. The only kind of thing we thought was weird is our campers sleep in tents on wooden platforms, and it's 6 beds in a tent, a big canvas tent over top of the platform with a wood frame. They wanted smoke detectors in there because it's a building that houses more than 4 or more people. So we had to put smoke detectors in our tents, which on humid days, it seems to be a bit of a mess, and we constantly are on our counselors to stop taking the batteries out of them. So. But other than that, the fire department's been great, but it has depended on who we've gotten over the years.
Mm-hmm. We have to put smoke detectors in our covered wagons, so it's all good.
Yeah.
And they only sleep 4, so yeah. Great. Anybody have any other comments or questions? No. I love how Manessatunks looking at each other. You have the most people in one room ever on a Zoom meeting. So that's awesome. You win an award. If there's no other questions, I have a couple of other things to talk about while we are together, and we're a small group, but more of the information will be going out about this. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. What is in 2019, we are invited to attend the Relation Shift. And the Relation Shift is the great gathering from the Outdoor Ministries Connection, which we're a member of along with a bunch of other United churches, along with a bunch of other outdoor ministries from various churches. And so the Great Gathering will be November 10th to 14th, 2019 at Lake Junaluska in North Carolina. What Matt and I talked about is the idea that instead of trying to host our own conference in 2019 and bring in speakers and do all of those things, it would be beneficial for us to see what the larger picture of outdoor ministry is. And so we really want to get this potential moving where people can, with the relation shift, you can find out information in numerous places. The Episcopalian Church will be there and they have a page on their website. The Presbyterian Church will be there and they have details about the event, which can be found. But essentially it's planning ahead for 2019 for the relation shift. I'm trying to get back to that. Okay. And so Relation Shift is a big conference, like 500 outdoor ministries professionals together in one place. What we do here in Canada, I was just talking with my my new retired camp director who lives on site, Bill Stevens, today as we drove to Edgewood Camping Conference Center, which is a Lutheran camp that just closed down. And Bill and I were talking about the idea that what is that moment that you discovered camping is bigger than your camp, right? So I grew up at Canissary Camp, and I remember in May of 1989 attending the Ontario Camping Association Councillors Conference in Toronto with 1,000 other people in one room, 1,000 other counselors and camp people, and really was like camping is not just Canissary, it's not just this one place. And I think that that's what Relation Shift would do for a lot of people who are committed to outdoor ministries, right? To attend a camping thing that is more outdoor ministries focused, and along with our other mainline denomination churches who have many more camps in the States than we have here in Canada. So that is Relation Shift. And I think I put a link up on the website to that. Any questions about that?
Hey, Joe, what's your thought on attendance? Like, what's the concept? Is there sort of one United Church of Canada representative that would go and represent all of the camps, or would it be
No,
from as many camps as possible?
as many people from as many camps as possible is the thought on attendance. They're planning on having, their low number is 400, their high number is 900. And so there are camps that are bringing, like, we're trying to figure out how to bring 3 different staff and 3 or 4 board members along and figure out the funding for that. And that's going to be the big question for a lot of camps, is how do you fund something like this? And what we've played with is this idea that the national body is not spending their money on doing accreditations for us anymore. So could we use those funds to, and the funds that they would normally give us to run our own conference to attend Relation Shift, and whatever United Church people are there, we can also, there'll be individual times where denominations can get together for focused meetings of their associations and groups. So it's not just one person from one camp or from the United Church. The idea would be for 50 camps to send people to the event. It's near Asheville, North Carolina. So flights to Asheville from anywhere in Canada, I've looked up from Vancouver, Calgary, London, Toronto, and Halifax. And it's inexpensive for us to fly into Asheville for whatever reason. You're talking a return flight for well under $500. Go ahead, Colleen.
Just, do we have assurance that if we have queer and trans staff members that might be joining us, that they would be safe at a conference in North Carolina?
Yes.
Is that for sure?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, positive, because it was a big discussion. So part of this conference is overseen by the Outdoor Ministries Connection. And that is where I represent us as United Church of Canada Camps at this meeting in Indiana last year, or in March, and in Idaho last year. And one of the questions they asked, the committee asked to us, was about a keynote speaker who is very much a lesbian, and they wondered if it would throw people off and not get them to attend. And out of the 6 different denominations in the room, 6 of them were like, not an issue whatsoever. She sounds great, book her, because they don't want to. And the conversation around North Carolina and bathroom laws and whatnot is done. They elected a Democratic governor. But there are assurances that it's a safe place. And all of those, not all of those denominations are truly as welcoming as the United Church of Canada, because we are well out ahead, or we are further ahead than most of the other denominations in North America, for sure. But that's a great question. So that's relationship, and we'll share more information on the We Are Camp website, .ca. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly was the PCCCA. So the Presbyterian Church, I'm going to share another thing with you. So the Presbyterian Church Camp and Conference Association is a group of about 135 sites in the States that are outdoor ministries. So they're summer camps and they're conferences, and or summer camps and conference facilities. They have a full-time executive director, Joel Winship, and they are an association that's been up and running for 15 years. And so what is happening is we are, this is their main website, and we're being invited, potentially, they're trying to work out the details. So we're being invited to gain a free membership to the PCCCA, which would get us access to their all of their events and any of their group purchasing things. This is their event page, and it's a great. I've attended the annual conference for the last 2 years, and they have a focus event like this event here on November 30th is for someone who's considering a call to camp and conference ministry. And so they have a variety of events, more so than we would ever put on. One of the things we've heard time and time again in my time in the United Church, in camping since 2005, is that we only meet once every 3 years in person, and that's not always enough to keep us rolling and keep us going. But the PCCCA wants to offer us a free membership with absolutely zero strings attached. There's no strings attached to this, and we're going to work out details with them over the summer. Joel is actually he's committed to being with us in September at our next Outdoor Ministries Institute Zoom call to talk a bit about this. But Joel is also coming up to Canada in July to visit some Canadian United Church camps. And so if you are in the London, Toronto area, like Manastung and like Big Canoe, we might have a time in the middle of July. I'm looking for a calendar, and I know that I didn't put one in this room because I don't use this room a lot. But we're looking for a time in the week of July 22nd to 27th, to sort of come and for Joel to come with, I think Matt Why Not's going to be in town too from Nova Scotia, and we're going to tour around to some camps. So Manessatung would certainly be on that list. Other camps close to us in London Conference. Big Canoe's a bit further away, but there could be a day where they go up and hit a few of the Toronto Conference camps, and there's many camps in between Big Canoe and Pierce Williams. So I don't see a downfall to this, the idea of this partnership. Daryl and I had a talk, was that about a month ago? We had a chat. Daryl had a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Daryl had written a letter or a proposal about something similar in Canada, where we as camps would be better served by having someone as an executive director or a guidance that all camps could use and all camps could benefit from. And I'm not sure that financially that's doable in our system currently. But the idea of joining another association is the fact that we don't need to start from scratch and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And you're not being amalgamated by that association. We're just become a subset of that association with all the benefits. That being said, a few years ago, the United Church of Christ in the States offered all United Church camps a free year-long membership, and only 3 camps took advantage of it. So, yeah, it becomes a question of, are we reaching the right people? Right? Like Doug's a board member, Lorraine's a board member, Daryl's interested, and we have camp directors, but are we reaching the right people when we talk to them, when we send out these emails and people who are interested? I'd be interested to hear some discussion on this, whether joining another association is, thoughts, ideas.
I personally think it's a good idea, but I totally respect the challenge that would be faced through the communication through the United Church camps, because I do feel like in my report, that's one of the problems we have is we don't really have communication. Like Colleen's question, or questions plural, go to show us we don't have an answer, do we? We don't know what are United Church camps doing concerning truth and reconciliation? What are we doing about gay and lesbian, transgender rights? Where are we on United Church policy? Are we consistent? No, I can guarantee we're not. Each camp has its own agenda. It has its own policies. It does things its own way. And we like operating independently, and I think it's fantastic that we do, but there's not the cohesion to bring us together and have answers to say, yes, United Church camping is, whether you go to a camp in New Brunswick or Ontario or BC, you're going to know what a United Church camp is. I would say the experience at each camp would be very different, from the Christian content through to the programming to everything. I think that disjointedness does make it difficult. And each year, again, you often have new people who are in charge of running the camp. So the email goes to last year's directors or people who are no longer involved, and maybe the information doesn't get forwarded to the current people, etc. So even with a Zoom call like this, we're representing, 4 or 5 camps, 6 camps, because I'm not really representing a camp. Out of all of the United Church of Canada camps across the country, that's fairly weak numbers. And yet this is a great thing, and it's the type of conversations we need to be involved in my opinion. But how do we get people to them?
It's Lorraine here. I think in a way, Mackenzie Camp is small, and for us, just getting organized and paying all our staff and finances is a big thing. Like, we work really hard just to pay the bills. And I'd like to send an article to you One of our directors has written an article. She's a freelance journalist in Toronto now, and she wrote an article on the impact of camping. And in the United States, well, I'd like to send you the article. Anyhow, about, I don't know, 20% of the children who attend camp are lower income. So 80% of them are higher income. And I think for us, Mackenzie Camp anyhow, at least we sponsor at least a third of our campers totally because they can't afford it. And so that's a big thing for us. And to join a major association and fund people to attend it would have to come from the national church.
I would say I'm all for the thought of learning from new people and new camps from around North America. I think that would be fabulous. My challenge is really, where do you find the time, and how do you put aside the things that seem very pressing and need to be addressed right now to be able to force yourself to do that professional development? And I think that's something that has always been a challenge. And I know that we've always said, oh, we got to make it to the next OMI meeting, and then something happens and you've got to deal with that. And I think it's not because we don't want to, it's just how do you make it work?
Mm-hmm. And I think just to speak to something,
I agree. Yeah, go ahead, Colleen.
No, just to speak to what Daryl brought up, I wonder if an additional association is helpful for creating that unity within the United Church camping. And as Daryl was saying, it is a very different experience one camp to another. And if we want to create unity, is that going to be helpful for us as a group of United Church camps?
It's Lorraine here. I think even just having this conversation is great. And it would be nice to really work on getting half of the 50 camps that are involved interested in listening in, if not participating.
I agree.
Yeah,
that,
and I think to your point.
Okay. I agree that we are really busy with a lot of things, and we do some association with the other 3 camps in our area that we have forever. And every time I go to one of those conferences or meetings, I feel it's very useful. But it's not necessarily as much a money issue. We're actually in a pretty good spot the last few years with our camp. We do subsidize about 40% of our campers, and fully subsidized, but we have some pretty big major donors, so it hasn't been as big a deal for the fundraising. When those dry up, or if they do, then we have a problem. But but it is finding the time to go to them. But I do find that it's almost like any kind of planning type exercise. It's very invigorating, and if you can make the time, it's a good thing. So I would see them as positive moves. Whether it would be great if we could get more people from the United Church camps in Canada, but maybe we need to hook in with United Church camps or other church camps around North America or even around the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think a note for everyone to pay attention to is this is our smallest OMI meeting yet, and we questioned whether June was something we should do this close to the summer. We have had our high has been 30 different camps represented on an OMI call. I agree that I would love more United Church camps to be a part of this, but this goes back to who makes the effort to be present, right? So I can't force you as a camp to participate in something United Church. And the same as a free membership to the United Church of Christ's Outdoor Ministries a couple of years ago, right? We can't force people to take the free membership, but if people want to utilize it. So I utilized it to go to the, it's 2 years ago. And it really opened my eyes that there are learning conferences that just feel different than going to a camping conference, and people get attached to their own camping conference. Some people love the Tri-State Camping Conference. Some people love, the OCA conference. But Clayton, to your point, it's plan ahead for professional development. That's the biggest challenge. Is you need to determine in your life and in your career where that where you're going to gain value so that you can go out and give more value. I've often, you make time, and I do a lot of professional development outside of camping, meaning that I'm going to Orlando in September for a nonprofit storytelling conference for about fundraising. And that's not a camping conference. It's just an idea for us to get that information so that we can use it to tell better stories and use those stories to get more kids to camp and to get more funders to send kids to camp. Right. So it's finding the time to do that. I know that Pierce Williams is unique in a lot of places because we have another full-time staff, right? We have, a full-time office person and a full-time camp director. It doesn't mean that we're any financially more sound than any other camp, because we struggle the same as anybody. But I think the idea of a partnership with another association isn't to amalgamate us into that association. It's to offer you as an individual the ability to gain information from somewhere else, because if United Church camps aren't sharing it, we can't force them to share it, right? If they're not joining us, we can't force them to join us. But to give you, a minister in South Carolina who drives Uber part-time to make ends meet because he's a camp guy and a minister, to have that conversation with someone is a valuable conversation, to understand that people do this because they have a passion for it, not because it's making them rich. And it's fascinating to meet different people. That being said, I don't know the details, but the idea would be that it would be a 3-year, sort of a 3-year membership. And Lorraine, as you said, the idea that what has happened with the Presbyterian Church in Canada is they got a similar arrangement many years ago, and now the Presbyterian Church pays for the camp's memberships if they're interested. And that is one way to sort of plan ahead for us, is to, there is potential to say, instead of each individual camp paying for a membership, to say, great, what is a fee that the United Church nationally could pay for us all to be members? Whether you use it or not is up to you. But those are longer term questions that are 2 or 3 years away. So I appreciate everybody's thoughts. Okay. Up on my screen that says your internet is unstable, and that sort of explains my life right now. Is unstable. So what I wanted to do in the fall, the United Church of Christ camps, so the PCCCA in the States, the Presbyterians have about 135 sites. The United Church of Christ, who is our closest church in the States, we are in communion with the United Church of Christ. Is that the phrase we might use? And they are interested in joining us on these calls to talk and chat and hear from other camping people. So starting in September, we are going to have United Church of Christ people from south of the border on these calls as well, and we'll add them to our email list as we go forward. That's just an FYI. Yeah. It is 8:32 according to my clock, and 8:32 Eastern Standard Time. I know it's different times out there in BC. Did anybody have any closing comments or questions?
I just want to say, is it okay if I send you that article about the impact of camping?
Yeah,
Okay, and you can
Yeah.
circulate it. It's a really good article. Yeah.
for sure. And I'll get it. Yeah, I'll get it up online in the resources section of wearecamp.ca, and we can send it out via email as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, everybody have a great summer. Whether you're at Camp Darrell, you're not at camp, but you know, have a great summer, and remember that there's lots of people we could reach out to and talk to if you have questions. So, yeah, thanks for joining the Outdoor Ministries Institute, June. And this recording will be up at some point so other people can listen. So,
Okay.
great.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.